So what do you think here happened? It was engineered, came out of the Wuhan lab, and then China tried to cover it up. That doesn't tell me anything about whether or not it was intentional. I mean, is there a chance that China released this virus on America intentionally? Disrupt the country, get Donald Trump out, get your man in there, Joe Biden, and then cover it up.
And that is Fox Business lunatic correspondent Maria Bartiromo. Yes, she wonders if China engineered the COVID-19 virus to get Donald Trump ousted from the U.S. presidency. There is crazy, and then there is Maria Bartiromo. Talk about Looney Tunes. To the credit of the Republican Congressman Ted Westrup, the Ohio representative did not follow Bartiromo into the la-la land of a get-rid-of-Trump conspiracy claim. Instead, Congressman Westrup simply pointed out that it seems COVID-19 came from a lab.
It was killing people all around the world. So it's not just America. Look, we also know on the intelligence side, many of the things that China has been working on as far as bioweapons, and including bioweapons that are derived from coronaviruses. So we know that this has been going on. We have all these things to consider.
Okay, that's reasonable. And let's consider that the COVID-19 came from a Chinese lab instead of from a Chinese market. In other words, for argument's sake, let's just assume the Chinese were making bioweapons and COVID-19 was one of them. So what? There is still no evidence the exposure and release was anything other than an accident. Do we really think the Chinese, if they wanted to deliberately kill hundreds of thousands of Americans, would first expose and kill hundreds of thousands of their own people? COVID did as much damage to the Chinese economy as it did to the U.S. economy. And if we knew at the start of the pandemic that this was a Chinese lab leak, what would we have done differently? Sue the Chinese, demand that they pay for all the damage, impose a trade war on China? Donald Trump had already put tariffs on China for economic reasons. The fact is, the global response to COVID-19, including shutdowns and racing to find a vaccine, would not have been done any differently. The only thing that might have been different is that the American people and our elected lawmakers could have perhaps been angrier at the Chinese. Ratcheting up the anger now seems to be the Republican goal. And that's fine. The evidence of a Chinese cover-up to the origins of COVID-19 is compelling.
What happened is researchers got sick. In the fall of 2019, these things happened. Yep. Researchers from Wuhan got sick with COVID-like illness. They deleted sequences they had in their file of viruses. They got a new ventilation system, and they turned their lab over from civilian control to military control. President Xi is aware of this. And why is he hiding this? Why was there no discussion with Joe Biden and President Xi on this very issue?
And there you have it. Republicans want President Biden to hammer the Chinese government and President Xi because the Chinese covered up the origins of COVID-19. And for many of these Republicans, anything short of a declaration of war by President Biden is going to be insufficient. The irony is that much of the Republican Party didn't want the trade war with China that President Trump launched. And large numbers of Republicans hate the idea of even defending Taiwan if China invades Taiwan. But as long as Joe Biden is the U.S. president, well, the United States needs to attack China over and over for the origins of COVID-19. There is no consistency or integrity among Republicans in any of this. Now, to be clear, I get the importance of having a full and truthful accounting of how COVID-19 started and who was responsible and what could be done differently the next time around. I think the American people can handle the truth. And if it makes the Chinese government look awful, so be it. China is already a U.S. adversary, and most experts on China believe a clash with the United States, perhaps even a military conflict, is inevitable. But do we want that war now over COVID-19 and what seems at worst to have been an accidental lab leak, followed by a Chinese cover-up? And do you think Donald Trump, who Maria Bartiromo thinks was the main target of COVID-19, wants a war with China? Even Trump is not that crazy. As for Bartiromo, well, she embodies the insanity of the MAGA movement. She promoted the big lie about the 2020 election. She relies on unsourced or poorly sourced information. And she's one of the Fox personalities responsible for the defamation lawsuits launched at Fox. Now, it almost seems like Bartiromo wants to do to the United States what she did to Fox News by damaging the U.S. and costing America a fortune. No thanks, Maria. Take your conspiracy theories and warmongering with China to a padded cell. That is where you belong. By the way, a Trump apologist on Newsmax recently got hammered by Republican presidential candidate Christie.
And I think we deserve better as the Republican Party and as the United States than a guy who's going to be convicted of felonies this April to be our nominee and to try to be our president.
By a bunch of liberal Democrats that are trying to take him down because they fear him.
And that was Newsmax anchor Eric Bolling spewing Donald Trump talking points. Christie responded by destroying Bolling.
No.
Guess what? If Chris Christie was
not
53%,
by a bunch of liberal Democrats.
They probably have your butt in the courtroom too.
No, I'm not going to put up with you saying that.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.